Welcome to UW's Sounds of the World, a sampler of films from the Robert Garfias collection in the University of Washington Ethnomusicology Archives. I'm Laurel Circum. During the 1960s and 70s, Dr. Garfias filmed hundreds of musicians during field trips abroad, as well as right here on campus. Today, Dr. Garfias is our guest, and we're going to sample films that he made in South Korea during his first field trip in 1966. Welcome, Dr. Garfias.
Thank you.
Would you tell us a bit about that first field trip and also something about your strategy as a filmmaker?
You know, it's a very interesting story because I was approached by Porter McCrae, who was at the time the director of the JDR Third Fund, John D. Rockefeller III's private foundation for promoting the arts in Asia. They closed that later. But they in particular wanted to establish a national folk music archive in Korea and one in the Philippines. And he asked me if I knew anybody who could do the filming and recording to set up a national archive. And I said I could. I had never used a movie camera before, but I thought, from talking to people, I thought I could handle it. But, you know, it's interesting as to the philosophy of what we did. A lot of people were making films that were, you know, cut and edited and storylines mixed with a few snippets of performance. And what we did instead were continuous, complete shots of each musical performance or each dance performance. The idea being to preserve the maximum amount of information for each performance as a document, and also as incidentally, we got a lot higher percentage of the film that we could use. Usually, you know, a lot of the film is not usable when you do something like that, but here we came out pretty well. So that was basically what drove the start, and then from there we just continue to make films as opportunities came up.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to see several examples of the work that you did in Korea. The first sample is a Kayagum solo. Could you tell us a little bit about this recording?
Well, this is actually a very famous musician. He's still alive, Hwang Byung-yi. He actually had a degree in law, but was very interested in music. He came from a family of businessmen, ran the family business for a while, but has continued to perform music, and he's an excellent performer. He knew several different versions of the South Korean cholado style of sanjo, improvisation. He knew several people's versions. And he also was a composer, and a very successful composer using Korean instruments to make a new music, a kind of neo-Korean music. And a lot of times that doesn't work, but his music is very good. And so both in the traditional realm and in this, for example, in this example, very traditional Korean music, he excels. His music is wonderful.
Okay, well, let's see this performance of Kayagum Sanjo. Next, we're going to see an example of Korean court music. Could you tell us a little bit about this? It's an outdoor recording. What is the setting?
This is a very, I mean, there's a lot to say about the Korean court ensemble. It's one of the two oldest existing court traditions in the world. The other one's in Japan. And the Japanese one was isolated for a long time from China and in Korea, but the Korean one was exposed to continual contact with China and all kinds of things, like the Japanese invasion of Korea. The Japanese managed to preserve the Korean court orchestra, the musicians and the school and the instruments and all that. So that tradition kept alive. During the Korean War, when the North Koreans advanced all the way to the south, they were pushed to a little corner, a little pocket around Busan, and they took all the instruments and all the musicians were down there, all crammed into this little area until the MacArthur's reinvasion of the central part of Korea. So they were saved. So it's a very, very important ancient tradition. It's probably one of the two most ancient, continuous, documented traditions in the world, that one and the Japanese court music. So this performance is, the orchestra sometimes plays on the terrace of the palace, sometimes on the ground for the various ritual ceremonies connected with the Korean court. This one is a performance on the ground, but it's a mixed ensemble of plucked strings and wind instruments, so it would be considered like a chamber ensemble. The piece is called Ujo Karak Doderi. It's one of the last pieces in the long, long suite. It begins very, very slowly, and by the time we get to these last two pieces, the tempo is quite lively, so it gives the impression of a lively, happy music, but it can be very, very slow in the opening position. It's a good performance for it.
Great. Let's take a look at this example of court music from Korea. Next, we're going to see an example of court dance. Could you tell us a little bit about this drum dance?
Mugo is a drum dance, yes. It's one of the remaining. There's about 6 or 7 court dances that still survive. In the old court tradition, most of the dances were performed by boys, young boys. The court musicians themselves, they would dress as girls. But after the Korean War, the New Enlightenment, they started to actually have women do it. Women would do it in the women's quarters of the court, but But usually it was young boys who did it. So here's the new tradition now. The old traditional style is they learned it from the old male dancers of the court, but now young women doing it. They dance around and they beat the drum as a part of the performance.
Great. Let's take a look at this court dance called Mugo. Our next example comes from the Korean Buddhist tradition. Could you tell us about this dance?
This is really interesting because Korea is one of the very few places in the world where Buddhist dances by monks are still part of the tradition. There is a temple just outside of the city of Seoul called Anjangsa, and here we found a group of monks that still do a number of dances, the butterfly dance, and this one is Chongsupara, the cymbal dance. There's an old form of Buddhist singing going on as the accompaniment, and then a wind band providing the rhythm and the drumming for the dance. So it's two kinds of music going on at the same time. Wonderful, heavenly bedlam.
Oh, good. All right, let's see the cymbal dance, a Buddhist dance of Korea. Our last two examples are masked dances. The first one is called the Dance of Eight Monks, and I would like you to introduce it if you have anything to say about this one.
What's interesting about this is that there's a number of mass dance traditions around Korea. It's an old form of sort of folk art. It occurs in villages and small towns. This particular group is a group from Pongsan, which is actually in North Korea, and these people had defected shortly before we made the film to South Korea, and so we found this whole troupe, and they did a number of pieces, and so we filmed. This one is the Dance of the Eight Monks.
Great. Let's see the monks dance, an example of masked dance. Our last example is a charming one. It's another masked dance called the lion dance. How would you like to introduce this one?
Well, this is the same group. It's the same
Okay.
Pongsan Talchum tradition, and they had a whole number of different dances they did. But this is cute. This is very sweet. The lion tamer and the lion trainer and the lion are dancing together. It's great.
Wonderful. Let's take a look at the lion dance.
정성났어! 예정성이 무슨 정성이냐? 초작적부터 내가 못 보던 정성이라구나. 자세히 보니 머리는 광주리 같고 몸체는 산 같으니 이게 도대체 무슨 정성이란 말이냐? 옳다, 알겠다. 전나라 때 전단이가 소에다 사람의 가장을 시켜 성한 적군을 물리쳤다더니 우리가 떠드니까 전장으로 알고 뛰어든 소냐? 후도 아니야. 옳다, 알겠다. 한나라 때 조계국이 가물어서 온 백성이 떠들 때 조계국왕의 심통한 조화로서 단비를 내려주어 조계국왕의 은총을 입어 군중과 같은 영화 다 누리다가 사천 물건 구하러 갈 때 문서보살이 타고 다니던 사자냐? 옳다, 내가 사자라구나. 그럼 내가 무슨 일로 적하인간 하였느냐? 우리 스님이 수도하여 부처님 명령 듣고 우리 스님을 모시려고 왔느냐? 그럼 좋은 풍악 소리 듣고 우리와 같이 놀려고 왔느냐? 그것도 아니야. 그럼 우리 해치려고 왔느냐? 어이쿠, 이거 야단났다 이놈 봐라. 당기당 나눴고
Well, that's all we have time for today. Dr. Garfias, thanks so much for coming in and sharing these examples of classical, court, and folk music of Korea with us today. And I want to thank you for all of the other wonderful footage we're going to be seeing during this series. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is UW Sounds of the World. I'm Laurel Circum. Please join us next time.